State football is looking to replace Jameis Winston and other top players who are heading to the NFL. Let's find out how spring is shaping up for the Seminoles. On the line with me now is Jason Staples of Knoll Digest. Hey, Jason, welcome back to the show.
How are you, Amanda?
I am fantastic. How are you doing?
I am recovering from the surgery that I recently had, but otherwise doing very well.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm very glad to hear it. Now, I was only able to watch a little bit of the spring game, but this is why I have you, the expert, to fill me in. I've read that the team looked a little inconsistent, but it's easy to see there's a lot of talent. What did you see there?
Yeah, I think that's a good description. It's a very young team, but it's as much talent as Florida State has had on the roster as really probably they've ever had. I mean, it's a team I think that's going to be comparable in a lot of ways to the 2011 or 2012 team. Very young, probably lose a game or two that they shouldn't. Just not quite ready, but a lot of talent, a lot of guys that are going to play on Sundays on both lines. Especially, you can see the size, the length of the bodies are. There's a lot of guys on this team that are going to be playing on Sundays. They're just not quite ready yet to be anything close to what Florida State fans have seen the last couple of years.
Let's break it down. Every Florida State fan wants to know who will take over at the quarterback position. So what did you see from the QBs on Saturday?
Well, to be totally honest, the only way I can say it is that Sean McGuire, who I think came into the spring in the driver's seat, given that he's the one guy that has experience. I think Sean McGuire had a rough outing. Jimbo Fisher is gonna try to maintain confidence. He's going to talk about how Sean played better in other scrimmages, and that's true. And how, maybe a route here or there hurt him or whatnot. But to be honest, McGuire didn't play well. He showed a tendency to double clutch, second guess his reads, and didn't show the kind of anticipation and ability to put the ball, to throw receivers open, and the confidence to really put the ball where he needed to put it that you would expect from a guy who's going to be the starter. So I think the door is wide open for one of the younger guys to step in and perhaps take that job in the fall. I thought J.J. Cosentino played reasonably well. He, again, didn't flash the kind of anticipation that you'd like to see, but he was a little bit better, albeit playing against the number twos. The guy that brought a spark was actually DeAndre Johnson, the true freshman early enrollee, but he's more physically limited, and the question is, do you really want to turn things over to a true freshman? So it's going to be really interesting. At this point, McGuire will take the first snap of the fall, but I'm not sure I expect him to be the starter at midseason next year. I think it's probably going to be one of the younger guys.
Now, what can you tell me about the running backs? I've heard great things about Dalvin Cook, Mario Pender, and Jacquez Patrick. What have you seen from them?
Well, I mean, everybody knows what you've got in Dalvin Cook. He showed last year with 1,000-yard season that he's a special back. He's going to be what he is, and he's gotten a little bit bigger. You could see a little bit of extra size this spring. So you know what you've got in him. But Pender was pretty close to as good as Cook last year before he got hurt. And then, the injury, he had a high ankle sprain that took away from his explosiveness, and he ran a little more tentatively after that. Pender ran very well in the spring game, and again, I think he's going to be a terrific 1-2 with Cook. The guy that was a real revelation, though, was Jacquez Patrick, the freshman, again, the early enrollee. Took his first carry, over 60 yards for a score, got called back, but he gave the fans a good introduction page out of the Jameis Winston playbook of how to introduce yourself at a spring game, and took his first carry for a score. So, I mean, at 230 pounds, anybody that at that size is outrunning a Florida State secondary, regardless of whether it has a couple walk-ons in it or not, you're talking about a guy who's got some real staying power at that position. He's going to be a player for years to come. He'll get immediate carries. He'll split time with the other two guys from day one. I mean, he is, I think, based on the instincts that he showed, the big back that Florida State was wishing that they had, was hoping that they had with James Wilder Jr. and Carlos Williams, neither of whom quite had the running back instincts to match what they had physically. I think he showed that he probably does have those instincts.
I'm on the line with Jason Staples of Knoll Digest. You made a bold statement on Twitter, Jason, saying that in 2 years, Jalen Ramsey will have a strong case for being the best cornerback in the NFL. You're calling it now, huh?
I am, but I also I said after about the first 2 games that he was into his redshirt freshman or into his freshman season when he was playing initially there in 2013 at corner initially, and then when Williams came back at safety, that I felt like he would go down as one of the best defensive backs in Florida State history. I thought that as a freshman. He just has just the full package physically, and I think what you're seeing at the corner is as he's developing, he is, I mean, if you wanted to build a prototype NFL corner, Jalen Ramsey's pretty close to what you want. And the thing is, he is physically what a sort of an Antonio Cromartie is. That's somebody who, who's at Florida State, years ago, obviously, and one of the best athletes in the NFL. But he's also, you're talking about a guy who studies and is an extremely smart player who's going to, maximize everything that he has. You're looking at a guy that I think is going to be in the Richard Sherman class. Thing is, he's faster than Richard Sherman is. He's a track athlete who the Florida State track coaches have said if he wanted to make the Olympics in the long jump, he probably could.
Wow.
So, you're looking at that kind of an athlete at a little over 6'1", 6'5" wingspan, that kind of an athlete with that kind of a work ethic and that ability to study and to get better. You're looking at a guy that I think is going to be among the Richard Shermans in the NFL within his first couple of years.
Now, some people have a strong opinion on Mario Edwards Jr. and where he should be drafted. They're questioning his potential performance in the NFL. What round do you think Mario Edwards Jr. should be drafted in?
That's a loaded question because there's a difference between when he should be drafted and when he will be drafted.
Right.
And there's a little bit of a difference, too, if we're talking about potential. What is his ceiling versus what can you really expect out of him? And that's really what makes him such a hard player to evaluate because, with the way he looked at Pro Day at 272, 273 pounds, which is where he should have been playing all along.
Right.
He was playing at 310 at the beginning of 2014. That's just – it's no wonder he looks sluggish. He's over 30 pounds overweight, almost 40 pounds overweight. When he's at that 275 range, you're looking at a guy that looks like a top 5 NFL draft pick, a guy that has just he has what you want at that defensive end position. He's got length, he's got a lot of girth, and he's thick through the lower half and can get leverage. There's obviously footage of him doing a standing backflip. He's a tremendous athlete. And you saw that again, like in the Rose Bowl, he went against the number two pick in the draft at offensive tackle, and really won that matchup against Cam Robinson from Auburn. This was in the 2014 national championship game. He won that matchup against the number 2 pick in the draft. So that shows you his ceiling. So if you're going on that, he should be drafted in the top 5 or 10 picks of the NFL draft. And then you look at what he looks like when he's 310, 305, like what you saw as a junior, and you look at that tape, and he looks like a 3rd or 4th rounder. So somewhere between there is where the guy's going to go, and you have to decide if you're an NFL team, are you going to roll the dice earlier, hoping that you're getting a top 5 player on the cheap, or are you going to get the guy who doesn't have the motivation to be great and eats himself out of that position within 2 or 3 years, and you've potentially wasted a higher draft pick on a guy that's not quite worth it?